There is too much between the joints, and underneath it is very thin covering. If there is a handbreadth of empty space, everything becomes tummy. If there is no handbreadth of empty space, the tumor is considered occluded. If the tumor is noticeable within the lower story becomes tummy, whether or not there is a cube handbreadth of empty space. A wall that resulted from excavation is ruled as a garlic peel. How so? If there is a wall between two recesses or between two underground chambers. If tumor is in the open areas of the catacomb, there are utensils in the wall that are covered very thinly. The utensils remain tahor, and if tumor is in the wall covered very thinly, in the open areas they are utensils, the utensils remain tahor. If tumor is underneath a pillar, the tumor penetrates upward and downward. Zion, utensils that are beneath the special capital remain tahor. Yochanan ben Nura declares them tameh. In the case where the tumor and the utensils are beneath the capital, there is a space of a handbreadth. The utensils are tameh. If not, they remain tahor. Two wall closets are one beside the other or one above the other. One of the closets is opened, it becomes tameh, and so does the house, while the other closet remains tahor. However, if the door is closed, the wall closets are treated as if there are no empty space inside them at all, and they are ruled half and half to make the house tameh. If the tumor is within a wall
okay, stop there. This is my stuff now.
That's you now. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Mishnah Aleph. Tumor bekosel. Okay, so if you have tumor inside the wall, okay. Umakoma tefach al tefach al room tefach. Okay, so now it's inside a space that's got a cubic tefach of space. Now this is called a sealed grave. We've seen this before. Okay, and I was just trying to see what's the difference between a sealed grave and the inside of a house, because that's also got the cubic tefach. The sealed grave though has nowhere for the tumor to exit. That's the problem with the sealed grave, which is why the tumor is just bursting to get out at all sides, and any kotel, any ohel that is adjoining the sealed grave itself becomes tameh. Okay, as opposed to a house which has a place for the tumor to exit. There it doesn't have there, like for example, we said the attic was tahor if it's sealed. Okay, if the house theoretically, hypothetically, were a sealed grave, if all the windows and doors were sealed shut, then that would be a sealed grave, and an attic on top of it would immediately become tameh. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. All right, so kol ha'aliyos she'al gaba. So let's say you've got the exterior wall of an apartment building,
right?
Okay, and there's a sealed grave inside that exterior wall, and it goes up 10 floors.
Mm-hmm.
Every single apartment adjoining that wall, because the tumor penetrates up and down. Because the sealed grave, the entire wall there is considered part of the seal of the sealed grave. Okay, which means that every wall, every apartment that is adjoining that wall becomes tameh. Okay, afilu hen eser, even if it's 10 stories high. Okay, tameos. Haisa aliyah achas al gabe shnei batim. Now, what happens if you've got one attic that is over two houses? So you've got like a T-shaped wall. You've got a wall in between the two apartments, and you've got a ceiling that goes over both of them, and the attic covers both the two houses. Okay, and there's tumor inside the wall. So now, hitmeya. So just that attic over there will become tameh because it's on top of the sealed grave. And anything that's built on top of that attic is fine. They're all tahor because the ceiling of that attic is an ohel, and it prevents the tumor from spreading higher. Okay. Kosel shenis. Now, what happens if there is kotel shunis? There's a change to the gersa over here, which shunis is like basically a wall that was formed by water erosion. So it's like the waves that come up to the sea and wash over the sea and then come back and basically it leaves. It leaves something that looks like a wall.
It says here there's tumor inside a dike. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, a dike. Okay, so very much like that. Okay, so there we go. It's something that's not. It's actually not made by man. So I'm not sure why they say a dike, because I think the idea, the difference with this one is that it was formed by natural erosion as opposed to people building it, and that's because they say even if it's got a tefach space and some tumor is inside it, it says Tuma Bokas Vola Bokas V'Yoredes. It's not called a sealed grave unless it is unless it was made by man.
Okay.
So the Tuma just goes up and down. It doesn't. If somebody built something abutting that wall, it wouldn't become Tameh. Nefesh Atuma. So if you have a gravestone that is sealed, that has no space between it and the Tuma, if somebody touches that from the side, it's the tahor. The Tuma, if there's no cubic tefach on top of the Tuma, then the Tuma just goes straight up and down. Okay, but if it does have a cubic tefach underneath the stone, if anyone touches it on any side, the whole ohel, that whole stone, becomes part of an ohel, and if anyone touches it, whether from the inside or the outside, is going to become tameh. We're going to see more of that in today's Mishnayos. Okay, tameh mipnei shehi kekever satum. So this is basically a kever, that's a sealed grave. So anything that goes around it is going to become tameh. Samach la sukkos. If somebody put a booth or some sort of structure right next to this grave, sharing a wall, using this grave as a wall, Tameos. That is Tameh. Rabbi Yehuda dissents, and he says that since these tukot are made from the sides, he's not Metameh them. Let's see why does Rabbi Yehuda matar sukkos hein diros arad? Oh, because he says because they are temporary dwellings, the gravestone is not considered like it serves the sukkot. However, the halacha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda. Okay.
Yeah.
Now dealing with real tents, an ohel literally made out of cloth, canvas, leather, something like that. Okay. It's important that we say it's made out of this because these are materials that themselves are subject to tumah, as opposed to a house where the house itself never becomes tameh, because it's mechuber lekarka. But a tent is not mechuber lekarka, even though it's pegged into the ground. It's not considered mechuber lekarka because it's made to move. Okay, kol shipui ohalin. All the slants, so your typical tent has a slant. It doesn't have a proper roof, so the walls and the roof are basically the same thing. Okay, ka'ohalin, they are ohalin in every respect. Ohel shehu shoper v'yored, it's slanted and goes down. V'kale ad ke'etzba, it goes just down to a finger breadth in height. Tuma ba'ohel, if there's a tuma inside the tent, kalim shetachas shipur tameim, then any kalim that are even underneath the lowest part of the shipur are all tameh. The tumah spreads throughout the tent. Tumah tachas shipur, and vice versa. If the tumah is underneath the lowest part of the slant, kalim sheba oil tamein, then the tumah still spreads throughout the entire tent. Tumah mitocho, if the tumah is inside the tent, then if somebody touches the fabric of the tent on the inside, so let's say they stick their arm in through the entrance and touch the inside of the tent. So otherwise, if they were under the same ohel, then you wouldn't have a question. So it must be somebody standing on the outside and sticks their arm inside and touches the fabric of the tent. Tameh tumas shiva, he gets 7-day tumah. Okay, and if he touches it from the outside, tameh tumas erev, then he only becomes erev tumah. He only gets erev tumah because the outside of the tent is considered 1 degree lower than the mace. So the outside of the tent then becomes an ava tumah to him. He touches the ava tumah and he becomes a rishon tumah, which means he's only got tumas erev. Tumah me'achorav. Now, what happens if the tumah is on the outside of the tent? Touching the fabric, so that say it's resting on the fabric of the tent. Okay, if somebody touches that tent now on the outside, tameh tumas shiva, the tent itself acts as a conduit, like an electrical current, and it's like he touched the mace itself. Okay, mitocho tameh tumas erev. But if he goes into the inside of the tent and touches the fabric there, again, it's only the fabric acts as a degree down. Sorry, let me just close this door. Okay. Now, what happens if you've got half a zayis on the outside of the tent and half a zayis inside the tent? If somebody touches the tent now, whether it's on the inside or the outside, the two chatzi zayis do combine to make tumah, but since neither of them is clearly on one side or the other, it's it can only make him tamei tumas erev. Miktasa merudad al haaretz. Now, what happens if some of the tent is trailing on the ground? Okay, so it's actually not it's not giving any shade or anything. It's just resting directly on the ground. Tuma tachtav or al gabav. If the tuma is on top of it or underneath it, tuma bukas or la bukas yerodis. Then the tuma simply goes up and down. It's not considered part of the ohel. Okay, makes sense. It's just a piece of cloth lying on the ground, which means it doesn't function as an ohel at all. Ohel shehu natoy ba'aliyah. Now, what happens if somebody pitched a tent in the attic over the hatchway that's going into the attic? Okay, miktasa merudad ala aruba, and what's covering that? What's covering the hatchway is the path that's just lying flat. It's not providing any shelter inside that attic. Okay, it should be Rabbi Yossi Omer Matzil. So Rabbi Yossi says, well, that's good enough because the fabric will combine with the rest of the ceiling to block the tumah from going between the attic and the house. Rabbi Shimon Omer Eino Matzil Adshi Yeheina Toy Kanitias HaOhel. He says it can't block unless it's functioning as an ohel. Okay, and the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi. No reason why that fabric can't act as basically as a door between the two. Okay, Mishnah Gimel, a mace babayis. What happens if you have a corpse in the house? Ubo pesachin harbe, and there are lots of exits from the house. Okay, and we haven't decided which one the mace is going out. Then the route out of the house through all of those entrances is tamei. However, niftach echad mihen. If one of them was opened with the intention that that's where the mace is going through, hu tamei v'kulan tahor, and then that one is tamei, and all the rest now become tahor. Now this doesn't work retroactively. It only works from now on. Once that entrance has been designated as the one where the mace gets taken out, from now on. So if anything else gets brought into those other places, it will remain tahor. Okay. Now, instead of actually opening the door, the person in charge made a decision. It's going to go out through that door. Or if he's going to push out the mace through a window that's big enough, it's 4x4. Hitzil al kol pesachim. That also is enough to make that one the tamei one, and everything else is tahor. Beis Shammai omrim Yachshov ad she'lo yamos hameis. Beis Shammai say that decision has to be made before the mace dies, because machshava is not enough. After the person is dead, machshava is not going to make a difference, says Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel omrim af mishameis. Say no reason why not. Okay, but again, it's not retroactive. It's only from now on that even Beis Hillel agrees that it's only from now on that it makes a difference if the decision hadn't been made before the person died.
How long is still Beis Shammai on that it has to be before the person dies?
Beis Shammai say machshava doesn't make any difference unless it's before the person dies. Beis Hillel say if you make a decision after the person dies, then from then on, that's the tamei route, and everything else is tahor. Okay. Now, what happens if that route out was blocked up with stones or whatever else it was blocked up with? And he decided that he was going to break open that opening in order to take the mace out through there. Okay, so of course his machshava isn't going to help. It's going to have to be some sort of maaseh. Now the machlokes is how much maaseh is going to make that the route out. Beis Shammai omrim kashe yiftach. They say only when he yiftach arba tfachim. He's got to open 4 tfachim. I make it a valid opening. It's not, but before that, it's not a valid opening. Therefore, it's nothing. Beis Hillel omrim kishe yaschil. As soon as he takes the first stone and takes it out, that machshava combined with the smallest maaseh is enough to make that the tamei exit. Umodim b'posech b'techila, but Beis Hillel concede the point that if he decides that he's gonna break through a new opening that's never been opened before, sheyiftach arba tvachim, that he needs 4x4 in order to make this a valid opening. Okay, we're gonna have to stop there, and I'll leave you to do chazaras yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Great day. Sorry.
So,
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye.